Welcome to another episode of WeakLEE Podcast. My title tonight will be The Fear of the Unknown. And my guest with me today is Mr. Isaac Knapper. He was wrongfully accused of murder at the age of 16. He was somebody that my grandfather was incarcerated with. My grandfather trained him. And now he's out to tell his story. He has his book out right now called Fighting Time. And it's on platforms like Amazon. Just search it and you could buy the book. Mr. Isaac.
Yeah, I'm Isaac, and I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, out the Third Ward, Melpomene Housing Projects. My mom raised 10 kids, raised us fatherless, by herself. And I don't know how she was able to do it, but back then, women kind of different from the generations that's coming now. Mom 93 years old, and she raised 10 of us, 7 girls and 3 boys, and had one sister that she was one of the first females to start boxing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And me and my brothers, we was boxing at 9 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old. And life got derailed at a young age after training for the Junior Olympics.
So you the oldest or the middle child?
I'm the oldest boy.
All right.
And I have all my sisters older than me. My youngest sister, she's about 2 years older than me.
All right.
Yeah.
And how was like boxing growing up, like you said?
Coming up in a project in poverty is we know that you got to be kind of rough. You got to be tough to survive them kind of environments. And me kind of being the third, I was the second oldest, and my brother that's a year older than me, he was killed. And in fact, when I was incarcerated in Angola serving a life sentence, he was killed. And so that made me out the oldest. And when my case got overturned and I got out, got exonerated and everything, I went to visit his grave and had a long talk with him, a long conversation at the grave site, because I never felt that I would be free.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that I would die in prison, and especially after hearing so many of these stories about Angola. And, when we was young, I don't know, y'all real young, y'all wouldn't know this here, but we used to sing songs about Angola when we was kids.
You sing songs about Angola?
Angola, yeah. We, in fact, they have, I was on a podcast, me and Tatum, Thad, and Bobby Wallace. We was all in Angola together, and we was doing this little story, this not the podcast, documentary that they was doing, and we started singing the song because we was talking about Angola and how we came up. And the story was pertaining to being institutionalized, and I brought it up that, some of us was institutionalized even before we became a part of the institution, coming up in that type of environment, and hearing so much about penitentiary, looking up to dope dealers, guys we see with guns doing the killings. And we didn't have no superheroes to look up to, so we wanted to be gangsters and stuff like that, man. Right. Yeah, coming up, bro. And we was singing Angola when I was 1. They booked me for carrying that gun, way out yonder on that farm, picking that cotton all night long. Angola, when I was 2, they booked me for sniffing that glue. It goes all the way up to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and it kind of like trip you out listening to that, and that pertaining to being institutionalized even before we even became a part of the institution,
Exactly.
Yeah. And so being, like I said, being in that environment, man, it kind of prepares you for that.
Exactly. So when you was convicted, what exactly was your mental and your thoughts of what's about to happen next with my life?
Well, you said when I was convicted. First of all, I didn't think I would get convicted at one point. I thought that I believed in the system. I thought that with these people That being, I mean, you got prosecutors, you got lawyers, you got judges, and these people, I figured, they gonna find out that I'm an innocent man.
Exactly.
But listening to these stories of other guys that much older than me, and I'm in an adult jail,
right.
Because they trialing me as an adult, even though I was a juvenile. And I'm on a tier with these guys, and I'm listening to their stories, and they telling me, they said, "Look, youngster, I know you feel like you're innocent, and you may be innocent, but if these people want you, they'll get you."
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't believe that. I figured, they just because they got them, they
trying to put that fear on you.
Yeah, gonna put it on me. So I didn't really believe it, bro. But everything these guys was saying was true.
Right.
Yeah, if they want you, they'll get you. And now I'm a witness to that. And now I can tell the next youngster, if they want you, they'll get you.
Right.
Yeah, because they will, man. And when they convicted me, my mom passed out in court. My sister started screaming and hollering. Y'all know he didn't do it. And the judge was so unprofessional. His name was Judge Shea. Mm-hmm. He's deceased now. And he was one of the roughest judges back of town. And he said, "Get her out of my courtroom right now." Now he's saying, "Get her out she done passed out."
Yeah.
Done fainted. And he hollered, "Get her out my courtroom."
Like he don't care.
Yeah, he don't care.
Yeah.
And he made it obvious that he didn't care. And it's the same way years later when I came back on court order, I had to go before him again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in front of him, like 10 years later, he looked at the paperwork. I was back on writ. And he looked at the paperwork and he said, "I remember you."
Mm-hmm.
And then he tore the paper up, tore the writ up, tore it up, threw it on the floor, and said, "Get him out my courtroom and send him back to penitentiary for the rest of his life where he's supposed to be." That's what he said. Yeah, that's the kind of attitude he had. Bro.
Right.
Yeah, and he denied me like that. He didn't deny me by signing the writ. He tore it up.
Right.
Threw it on the floor and said, "Get him out my courtroom. Send him back to penitentiary where he's supposed to be at for the rest of his life."
So what you saying that it kind of remind me of my situation with my kids when I went back to try to get more equal time with them. It's like if it's not written outright, it won't happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like if they want you, and it's like if you don't have that right lawyer or that right person saying exactly what you need them to say, how you need them to say it, then they're already gonna get you.
Yeah. I mean, they already have it. It's already they know exactly what they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have a jury trial, and it's up to the jury to decide if you innocent or guilty. The judge already have in his mind what he gonna do.
Right.
Yeah. He listening to the judge because that's law.
Mm-hmm.
We have a jury trial. We don't have a judge trial, but he gonna still make the last decision because he's the judge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that being said, with you being incarcerated and all that, was education an issue or a big problem with you being in jail?
Another thing. In 16, I just turned 16 years old. And when I went to Angola, it was no such thing. The warden told me I filled out a form to try and get in school because I wanted to get my GED. And the warden, you have to go before the board to try and get in school.
Mm-hmm.
And the warden looked at me, he said, "Knapper," he said, "Am I seeing this? You serving a life sentence. You don't need an education. See, I'm not putting you in school. You can go back in that field, pick some cotton. See, because you're gonna be here the rest of your life. Papa,
right.
You don't need education to live here. Is this where you'll die at?" That's what the warden told me.
Uh-huh.
So they denied me. I couldn't get in school.
So how exactly did you get past all that?
Well, I first of all I went to administrative lockdown. I went on extended lockdown at Camp J, and it was a situation where they found some contraband in my cell. In fact, in a cell that I had just moved in, and it had something to do with, y'all heard of the Angola 3 The guy Wood Fox, Albert Wood Fox, he stayed in a hole longer than any human being on the planet. He stayed in a hole, in a dungeon in penitentiary for 42 years. And he's a good friend of mine. You know, I got a bunch of pictures of him in my phone too, but he just died. He just passed. And if you Google Angola 3, he wrote a book called Solitary. Yeah. And NAACP got him out. It was 3 of them. It was Wallace Dock and Wood Fox. Wood Fox was the leader. He was one of the founders of the Black Panthers. And a lieutenant in Angola was killed, had his head cut off. And they picked up Wood Fox, and they couldn't prove he did it, so they kept him in a hole 42 years. And when Wallace got out, Wallace got NAACP involved, and that's how Wood Fox wound up retaining his freedom. But when Wood Fox got out, after the first year, Wood Fox had traveled to 16 different countries. 16 different countries, and sat at the table with world-class leaders, presidents of those countries. Yeah, that's how wise this guy is, bro.
Right.
Every year, they would go to his cell, and even though the administration would change, they would go to his cell every year on the anniversary of that lieutenant's death, and they would ask Wood Fox, you ready to get out the dungeon? You ready to go in general population? And Wood Fox would tell him, yeah, I'm ready. He said, okay, you going to apologize to the victim's family? Get the F from in front of my cell. He told him that for 42 years. Every year they go to his cell and ask him that. He said, I would die in here before I apologize for something I didn't do.
Right.
You know, and Wood Fox, he strong brother, strong brother. And you asked me about the education system, and that's basically where I got the majority of my education from, Wood Fox. I was in the hole with him.
All right.
Yeah, they found some contraband 27 shotgun shells in my mattress. And it was something involving Wood Fox and them the group he was involved with in the penitentiary, because they found a shotgun too in the penitentiary. And I had just moved. I wasn't in that cell 24 hours yet. I didn't know nothing about it.
Right.
And they the guy Malich tried to take the rap, say, hold up, this youngster just moved in this cell. He ain't got nothing to do with that.
Right.
And I stopped him right there. I said, hold up, bro. I don't need you to go before me. They found it in my mattress. Let me deal with it. And that's when they sent word to Wood Fox about me and how I stood up and handled that situation. I stayed on extended lockdown for 2 years.
So how did you get connected with my grandfather?
Well, when they come got me off Camp J, the warden, they had this guy named Lionel Russell. He was a good fighter, but he was so arrogant. Everybody hated him. With the warden, the major, the captain, none of them liked it, Lionel Russell, because he was one of them that wouldn't bow down to them. And I liked it after hearing about Lionel. I liked it, Lionel, because that's how I was. I was stubborn too. I wasn't gonna bow down to him either, But they wanted me. They heard about my fighting skills while I was on extended lockdown, and they wanted somebody to beat Lionel. And they got me off of lockdown and said, look, we'll put you anywhere you want to be in general population. We want you to fight Lionel Russell. And I didn't even, they said, you know Derek Robinson? I said, yeah, I know Derek. He said, well, Derek sent us to you. He said that you the guy to beat Lionel Russell. And I turned it down. I said, no. I said, I'll stay on lockdown until my time is up. They put me in general pause. I don't want them, doing me no favors.
Right.
Yeah. And I turned it down, and I stayed on lockdown another year. And when I went before the board, they sent me in general population, and a D-man was one of them saying, man, come on, bro, you want to box. And I wanted to box real bad because that's all I ever did, all my life. And boxing was huge in Angola. And so Derek kept saying, bro, why don't you come on, man? You want to box, man. And I went on, and I walked in the gym, put on some mitts, I started hitting the bag, and it felt so good. It kind of took me away from prison. Yeah. And that became my escape. Working out, I would go to the gym and I would work out, And I went to the gym one evening, and Montgomery was in there, your grandfather. And he was the trainer. And I walked up to him. I said, "Say, man," I said, you're a trainer." He said, "What you think?" You know, he always been stubborn.
Yeah, it sounds like.
"What you think?" You know, I said, "Well, I don't think anything. I figure I see you talking to the other little fighter." He said, "What you want, to box or something?" I said, "No, I don't really want to box." I said, "But I don't want. You know how to fight?" I said, "Yeah, I can fight." You know? He said, "Let me see what you could do. Put them gloves on. Let me see what you know how to, let me see you do something. Throw a jab." And I started shadow boxing. He said, "Damn, I think I like you." He said, "Man," he said, "Shit." He said, let me see that combination again." And I threw a 4-punch combination, man. And he said, "Shit, man." He said, I need to have you in this gym."
Right.
You know? And I said, "What you gonna train me?" He said, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna train you." He said, "You better not go over there by Cheyenne them." You know, because Cheyenne had a couple of more trainers.
Yeah.
He said, I want you right here. Right here with me. You know. And man, and that's where it started at. You know, I started training with Montgomery. And my first fight, I had been training with Montgomery for about maybe a month. And then they had a show. That Wednesday night was fight night in Angola. And they had a show in Montgomery. He told me, he said, "Bro, look, I think you're ready to fight right now because you already know your shit." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'm ready to fight." You know. He said, "Well, you want to fight Curtis Jackson?" I said, "I don't know him, bro." I said, "But I fight anybody, no matter who he is." He said, "Okay." And Montgomery felt good with me, because he wanted everybody to know he training me. Yeah. Right. And I got a reputation so fast, but I beat Curtis Jackson. In my second fight, I lost. Mm-hmm. I lost against Lionel Russell, the guy who they wanted me to beat. Lionel Russell, he had been holding the title, and I fought him, and I lost. And I felt like I can beat Lionel Russell. Mm-hmm. And I know I can beat him, and I know how I lost, Right. And I just come out the dungeon at the time. There's no excuse, but I wasn't in shape, and Lionel he beat my ass. And I told Lionel, I said, "Bro, you got me this time." I said, "But I want to fight you again." And he said, "Man, whenever you're ready, whenever you think you're ready." Right. Because Lionel was arrogant, Yeah, he was one of those smart talkers and everything, bro. He'll talk crazy to you and everything. And took me about 5 or 6 weeks later, I fought Lionel again. And I beat him. And Lionel was in denial. And so I gave him a rematch, and I beat him again. Right. And then I beat him again, And then he finally told me, he said, "You know what, bro? I can't whoop you." Right. Yeah. And he finally gave up. And I out of 368 boxing matches, I only lost one fight, and that was against Lionel. And I came back and beat him 3 times after that. Right. That's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Had 98 knockouts, man. And that's when they brought Holyfield inside the prison. He was training for Mike Tyson, but he wound up not fighting Tyson. Tyson wound up going to prison that first time, But they brought Holyfield inside the prison for me to spar with him. Yeah. Yeah. And I still wound up having the opportunity to spar with Holyfield when I got released from prison. He came to New Traconda, and I sparred with him, and he whooped Mike Tyson. And then I worked with Reddick Bowe. I sparred with Reddick Bowe for Holyfield. Reddick Bowe was training to fight Holyfield. Yeah. Yeah. And so I got a chance to spar him. I got a chance to spar Roy Jones for my speed. I had the Saints, Steve Sidwell, defense coordinator, Pat Swilling, Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills. All those guys there was in my corner supporting me because they knew my story and they knew what had happened to me. And so they they kind of like supported me and paid for everything for me to make it back to the Olympic trials again. And I wound up making it to the trials when I got out of penitentiary.
Mm-hmm.
I was the oldest one. I had to win 17 fights to make it to the trials. And I won all 17 by knockout.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I made it there and I won a bronze. I lost by a split decision the last fight, you know. And it talks about that a lot, you know, if you Google it, you'll see it. You know, kind of felt like they showed a little partiality, you know, my promoter, my lawyer, they felt like I won that fight.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the right. I wasn't a person to represent the U.S. coming out of penitentiary.
Yeah,
you know?
it's the story.
Yeah.
So how did you find strength and have faith in everything that you went through and not knowing what's going to happen to you?
You know, it goes back to the gym. I would go to the gym. That was my escape, you know, going to the gym and working out till I was just exhausted. You know, I would work out so hard, man, and every day. In fact, the warden put a memo in the unit, and that was the first time that was ever done. Put a memorandum in the unit to let every CO that comes to work, anytime I want to leave out that unit to go to the gym, it don't care what time it is. It can be 2 a.m. I can wake up 3 a.m. and say, look, I need to go to the gym. They're going to open that door and let me go to the gym.
Right.
And that was my way of escaping reality, you know, letting off steam, because I stayed in the hole a lot, you know, being stubborn and being mad and angry because I was in there for something I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, being innocent, that was the hardest part. That was the hard pill to swallow, you know, and serving a life sentence for a crime I didn't commit. I knew nothing about that crime at all. And like I said, 11 years later, I find out that 3 other guys was arrested for the same crime and got caught with the gun, with 1 bullet missing out of the gun. The 1 bullet that was missing was the bullet that they found in the doctor's head.
Mm-hmm.
And them 3 people got cut loose and they convicted me. So, I mean, I was so angry, you know, and bitter. You know, I didn't want to hear nothing about God. You know, that was one of the things that they'll throw in your face. Look, man, look what happened to Job. I said, who the F is Job? I don't know about Job. You know, so it was one of those types, man, read about, you know, what happened to him, and then God blessed him and gave him this. And look, bro, I don't know what y'all talking about. I don't want to hear nothing about God. I don't want to hear nothing about this guy y'all calling Jesus. You know, if they got that kind, why would they let something like this happen? And I started finding out years later, you know, that, you know, he don't put no more on you than you can bear. And he allowed that to happen to you because you're one of his strong soldiers. And he knew that you can handle it. That's why he allowed you to go through it. You know, and when I was hearing things like that, it started kind of making a little sense to me. You know, I said, okay, I understand. You know, and I would listen to my mom. She was very religious. You know, and she would come visit me, and I said, okay, Mom, she'll pray. Yeah, I'll pray with her. You know, and so I started getting into the spiritual side of it and seeing things different.
Because I could really say the same thing about my situation, though.
Yeah.
Because from going my separation from my marriage, when I moved to Dallas with my nanny, who I probably talked to once or twice a year. And then I'm moving in with her, living in one room, living on a air mattress. And then, like, I'm going from a 4-bedroom, 2-bedroom house to an air mattress in a small apartment. So I'm like, what's about to happen? Like, why is it, like, how is this happening to me? And like, and it's just me not knowing, but still having faith and thinking like I'm going through all this for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, and all this, like the podcast and all that had me see, like, I'm just maybe that one person to really be having a word for other people like me.
Right.
'Cause I know I'm not the only person going through this.
Yeah.
And it could have been the same thing for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, because I look at a lot of guys, man. I used to look at a bunch of the older guys, you know, like your grandfather, Montgomery. And I used to look at them, you know, and I would say, you know, these guys been locked up so long, you know. And, you know, I can say so many names, bro, you know, guys. And most of them passed, now they dead. But they had been locked up. I went, I'm part of a peer support group right now that I goes every other week. It's a lot of ex-offenders. That's like therapy for me. And because, the trauma that we experienced in prison, especially me being so young and seeing guys get their throat cut, guys getting stabbed up, getting killed, because Angola was the bloodiest prison in America at one point. When I first went there, and they got a guy that lived right around the corner from here. Y'all probably don't know him, but he was one of the most treacherous guys I ever met in Angola. In fact, he did 45 years. He lives right around the corner from here, and I goes by his house sometime. And what he would do, he would look out the window, and if somebody passed, he'll be looking at him. If they look that way and see him, he closed the curtain back. And I told him, I said, stop doing that, bro. I said, you don't have to do that. You're making people paranoid of you.
Right.
And when you do that, he would just look out the window, and if he sees somebody, he wait to see if they're gonna look at him. And if they look and see him, he pull the curtain back. Yeah. And but just that prison, bro, it have you like that, man. And I mean, being in bondage for that long, bro, you let a dog out of a cage, bro, after being locked in, he gonna, you don't know what he gonna do.
Right. Yeah.
But I goes and talk to my partner because I try to help him. I want him to come to the peer support group, but he's so messy. And some of them is like that, they too far gone to even try and seek help, And I was finna tell you about a friend of mine that I went to go get from Angola, and it touched my heart, bro. It just ran chills through me when I was talking to him at the front gate. I said, bro, you out now. I said, what you want to do? And he told me, he said, Champ, because all of them call me Champ. He said, Champ, I've been watching TV for a long time, and I see this restaurant on TV. This guy, he wears a clown suit, but the sandwiches look so good. He was talking about Burger King. He said, I want to go to that place because they didn't have Burger King or McDonald's when he went to prison. He never seen a Burger King or McDonald's, but he seen it on TV. He seen the commercials and stuff, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go to one of them restaurants. He said, I want to go.
Yeah.
He said, I want to taste one. He said, man, I've been wanting to taste one of them things for so many years.
Right.
And so I told him, I said, you know what? As soon as we get off this Snake Road, they got a McDonald's and a Burger King, and I'm going to take you to both of them. Right. He said, oh, man, you going to take me? Oh, you going to take? I said, yeah, I'm going to take you, bro. I said, we leaving right now in a few minutes. Right. And it's just think about things like that, and you listen to stories. These guys been gone, bro, 60 years, 65 years, been in prison. And that's too long to be dead, bro. I don't, it's not a crime. That's and back then, these guys, being black, coming up like we did, bro, and the systemic racism it was at its highest. It wasn't slavery, but man, that's why they opened up the prisons. When they freed the slaves, man, they opened up all the prisons. Right. And at one point, a black man couldn't live in society if he didn't have a job. He had to have a job. If he was a certain age, he had to have a job. If he didn't have a job, they gave him 30 days to get a job. And if he didn't have none in 30 days, they come in to get him and put him in jail. Yeah. So just think about how hard it was, bro, back then, but we got, like I said, this peer support group, bro. I mean, y'all can be a part of it. Y'all can come visit. We got lawyers, judges, DAs, police officers. All of them comes to the peer support group just to listen to us. We just had a picnic Saturday. Right. It was 360 of us there at the picnic. All of us ex-offenders. It was like the whole penitentiary was out there at Alderman Park. We have it every year. And so we just had that one this year, Saturday past. Yeah. And it was huge, bro. It was a whole bunch of people out there.
Let me know.
Yeah, I will.
So, one more thing with that being said, what tips do you have for somebody that don't know exactly what's going to happen to them next?
You have to kind of like, first of all, you have to educate yourself You have to educate. It's very important to have an education. And like I told you earlier, the warden told me I didn't need an education because I was serving life and I would die there. And after about 7 or 8 years, I started believing him. I started saying, you know what, I will die here. But when I hooked up with Wood Fox, and Wood Fox told me he used to always hit on the wall. I was in the next cell from him. Mm-hmm. He would hit on the wall and wake me up. And they had bars. So you can, come to the bars and I can kind of talk to him through the bars. Or you could stick your hand, he would stick his hand out with a book.
Right.
And he'd say, come on, youngsters, you finna read. And that's how I learned how to read. Wood Fox would always put the books outside the cell. He said, come on, youngsters, it's time to read. And I said, man, I don't feel like reading today. I learned some other time. Right. He said, no, you next to me, that you're going to read every day. Every day you're going to read, you're going to spell, you're going to learn this here, you're going to learn about your history, who you are, and that's how, I started listening to Wood Fox, bro. And the guy, like I said, this somebody that sat at the table with 16 different presidents the first year he was home from prison. Right. So he definitely a wise man, bro. And I learned a lot from him.
Well, I appreciate you.
But I would tell somebody, to educate yourself, man. Even if you're not getting it from other people, right. You can do it yourself. You can educate yourself. It take, you don't need a degree, bro. It take common sense to make it in this world. Right. And if you have common sense, you can make it. And that's what, that as plain as I can say it. If you have common sense, that's all it takes.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But thank you for doing this episode with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
No problem. Yeah. Mr. Isaac Knapper. Again, purchase a book on Amazon and tune in next week. And this is the WeakLEE Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tune in next week.